So what are we trading? Are we trading stocks, Forex, crypto, futures, options? What are we trading, right? So the question is, what's the best thing to do? So we could trade stocks, but if you did, to make anything even remotely profitable be worth anything with our strategy, you'd have to trade with like 6 figures of stocks. Why is that? Because the patterns we're predicting are tiny, tiny, tiny motions in the stock. So let's just say, for example, you're trading the S&P 500 stock, SPY. Okay, that's the most popular thing to trade in the stock market right at this time. That stock costs $600 to buy 1 share of. So if you've got $1,800 in your account, you can buy 3 shares of it. The prediction that we're making is like a 45-50 cent jump of the stock. That means if you put $1,800 in and you get that prediction and you nail it, you make $1.50. Minus the fees is probably like 75 cents. So would using $1,800 to make 75 cents be worth it? Nope. Completely not worth it. So instead we use amplifiers, where you can use the same $1,800 and the same 50-cent jump, but you can make $100 with it or lose $100 with it. So we use stock amplifiers. There's 2 of them. There's options and there's futures. Okay. Right now we're a little more focused on futures for several reasons, which I'll explain in a second. But both of them have the exact same thing of simply multiplying the power of your money. Now, if you want to get into the super geeked out, what do these things actually do and mean? I have other videos that do that. So if you want to go super geek on what exactly are options, what are futures, then do that. But for now, just think of them as stock amplifiers, okay? Amplifying your money as if like you're multiplying by 100. All right. What else do they do? They give you the ability to trade in both directions. Both options and futures give you the ability to, if you predict a drop, you can also monetize that. Whereas with basic stock purchasing and selling, you can't do that. You have to actually predict that it's going to go up. So with options and futures, it gives you amplification and 2 directions. Those definitions for those 2 instruments, honestly, that's kind of all you need to know right now. Once you get into it and you start learning about it and using it and you want to go, hey, what is really going on here? I go really deep in other videos, exactly what options and futures are. But if you try to go on Google right now or go on YouTube right now and say, what are options? It's going to say, well, it's an agreement between a guy to, you have the option to buy something, but a certain number of shares and a certain price, and you have to multiply by 100 because it only has a certain expiry. That's going to literally send you into confusion. When all you have to think about is all it does is multiply my money by 100 for a normal stock trade. 100 is even an arbitrary number. It could be 50. The point is it multiplies it by, some magnitude. And that's exactly what futures do. That's exactly what options do, right? Both options and futures sound confusing and non-beginner friendly. We make them beginner friendly. We make it so that it's not difficult to understand how it's used and how it works. So options and futures have the same thing. They amplify your money and they give you 2 directions you can trade. Simple as that. We are currently more focused on futures. And the reason we're doing that is because there's so much activity in the futures market that tens of thousands of people could do the exact same trade at the exact same time on certain instruments and it won't affect it at all. With options, there's a limited amount you can trade. So if like all 10,000 people did the exact same trade at the exact same time, it could actually deactivate its workability. Futures eliminates that problem. The other thing is futures is simply less complicated than options. With options, there's about 4 other things you have to focus on before you place your trade. With futures, it's literally 1 or 2 things. And just look at those 1 or 2 things. That helps you decide what you're going to do exactly, and it's a done deal. With options, there's a lot of other factors that go into it. The only thing that makes options more appealing than futures is that options can apply to way more things. Futures only has a couple dozen things you can apply it to. Options has thousands. Okay? You cannot do futures on Apple. If you wanted to trade Apple with futures, you wouldn't be able to. But you can trade options with Apple. And if you thought, I know for a fact Apple's going to go rocketing up next week, options could make you a lot of money. So it's fun to learn that. And it's a cool thing to understand. Futures is very limited on what you can trade, right? Luckily, we have found patterns that apply to both. But if you were a dedicated options trader and you still wanted to do 20-minute trading, we absolutely accommodate that, no problem. In fact, the first 4 years of 20-minute trader was focused on options. We switched over to futures because we found it easier and better. Do we have stuff with Forex? Yes. Do we have stuff with crypto? No. Do we have stuff with stocks? I have several 20-minute traders who do have hundreds of thousands of dollars that are applying the 20-minute trader strategies using stocks and getting those 50-cent jumps and making their $100 a day with their $200,000. The thing that people like a lot about futures and about 20-minute trading is that you are in and out within a minute. So your money is only vulnerable for a minute or less in most cases. They also like the fact that you can actually start with a pretty small amount of money with the potential of growing a lot. And quite a few people have done that. They've started with hundreds of dollars and turned it into tens of thousands. So is that the typical result? No. So I'm not promoting that as a typical result. Is that a possibility? Yes, it is. You can dream about that. It could happen. But the better thing to do is say, I want to build good habits with trading. I want to use every trade as a lesson to prove and manifest my ability to respect the process and get satisfaction out of applying the process. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go off onto that too much. That's all about trading mindset. But just understand that the instruments we prefer with 20-minute trader is futures and then secondarily options. And to fully understand those, all you got to know is that futures and options amplify your money and give you the ability to trade in both directions so that if you predict a drop, you can monetize it. Whereas with stocks, you can't unless you learn how to short, which is a whole other subject. In any case, that's what we use, and I hope that makes sense to you.